So welcome to Health Challenge Delaware, everybody. This is our third annual. So excited that you have joined us. We will meet the all four Tuesdays in the month of October 2021. On this one, it's how to reverse disease and build a healthy life. We are proud that we are part of Peace Week Delaware. This has been going on for quite some years, and we are one of the events for Peace Week Delaware, but there's a whole bunch more for the rest of the week. So I encourage you to check out their website after tonight's program, and into the weekend, there's all sorts of cool events. But Health Challenge Delaware will occur the 5th, the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th of October. Here's how I propose the evening go today. We're gonna go from about 6:30 till 8, from 6:30 till 7:10-ish, 7:15. I'm gonna talk to you about how to build a healthy life. My hope is to give you some skills that you might not have, or tips you might not have encountered elsewhere. Also to give you a sense of what we recommend you do in the course of the month. We'll have a little discussion afterwards. And then about 7:20-ish, we hope to have everybody break into our breakout rooms, our Zoom rooms, where you are gonna have a mentor. And the mentor, we've had some training sessions and practice sessions. And so your mentor is gonna help you build your action plan. Hopefully we're gonna be writing that on our index card. And then we'll finish with the final 10 minutes with final questions. So, and if you haven't signed up, please go to this website and sign up, tinyurl.com/healde, because that way I will know how to contact you and send you the link to the video and send you other information, handouts and such. I'll ask you to mute yourself when you're not speaking, when you're not presenting. You can use the chat feature of Zoom. In the breakout groups, we want everybody to speak, and we want everybody to get to share their plan and have a little bit of feedback on a little bit of questioning from the mentor of, how confident are you that you're gonna be successful? And so on that note, we got to make sure everybody has just a few minutes to speak. We don't want to take up the whole time. So that's me. I'm Dave Donohue. I am a primary care internal medicine physician, and I'm also the first in the state of Delaware to be board certified in lifestyle medicine. And that's our practice, Progressive Health of Delaware. You'll notice I stick out like a sore thumb there with all those other highly competent and much more attractive human beings. So we have, what is this thing of lifestyle medicine? Well, it's sort of divided into 6 categories, or we call them the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine. Basically, how can we lead our very best life? So lifestyle medicine is as evidence-based as it can possibly be, with, we're sort of laser focused on the goal of helping people live the very best life and the longest possible life they can. And it turns out when you look at that science, of what's out there, the answer is basically, it all comes down to the lifestyle we lead. So it is our lifestyle that determines how long we get to live on this planet and how well we get to live on this planet, particularly the categories of healthy eating, physical activity, a healthy relationship with stress, such as mindfulness techniques, maintaining those healthy person-to-person relationships, avoiding risky substances, and I would broaden that to addictive behaviors of all types. And then finally, and very importantly, sleep. We all need 8 hours of sleep, it turns out. So if you look in the doctor's bag of a lifestyle medicine doctor, it looks like this. We have the drugs, we have the procedures, just like any other doctor, but we also try to spend a lot of time on these pillars, the exercise and everything else that I mentioned. So we end up doing a lot of yakking with our patients. And really what we want to do is actually have it a two-way yak, because if we're pushing information out there, it's not as effective. So I'm conscious that I'm going to be yakking at you for 40 minutes today, but we really want you to be able to share and speak about your own ideas about what's going to work for you. So, I alluded to the research. We're not going to have enough time to go deep into it, but basically a lot of chronic disease, the diseases that you're familiar with, is totally preventable and even in some cases reversible if we eat a healthy enough lifestyle in these 6 categories. For example, it has been estimated, according to this research, that 93% of type 2 diabetes is preventable. A good 80+% of heart attacks are preventable if we lead a healthy enough lifestyle. Heart attacks are our leading killer. So our leading killer is almost totally preventable. Similar with stroke, cancer, it has been estimated that about 90% of Alzheimer's disease is preventable with a healthy enough lifestyle. So pretty much name a condition and lifestyle plays a huge role in the vast majority. So this is about you. The whole program, we're focused on you. So the science doesn't matter as much as what's going to work for you. And we really want to meet you where you are. We want you to be in the driver's seat. And you're the one who's going to pick what changes you make in the course of this health challenge. I want to emphasize that there's no such thing as success or failure. You're just going to try different things out. We have an experimental mindset. There's no such thing as perfection. So we just do our best. And if something's not working, we'll shift strategies and try again. But we believe that the research is pretty clear that not only diet, but all the lifestyle factors play a very big role in this list of diseases that you might accumulate. And we think this is really important because it's normal for people to start accumulating these diseases. As we progress through adulthood in the United States, it's abnormal if you don't get at least one or more of these diseases that appear on the left. This slide is emphasizing the role that food plays. Food does play a very big role in which diseases you're going to get. So there is a nutrition connection with almost every disease you can name, and pretty much diseases from head to toe. So Alzheimer's disease and dementia and the anxiety, depression, the mental health, on down through the digestive tract, the respiratory tract, your circulatory system, your heart and blood vessels, and on down to the reproductive organs, the muscles of your body, and down to the feet, where we suffer from things like plantar fasciitis or gout. All of these conditions are potentially preventable when we eat a healthier diet. And when we eat that healthier diet, we see a lot of benefits. So I know many of the folks who are on the call have experienced some of these very benefits. We can't predict from person to person who's going to get what benefit when, but the potential exists for any number of these benefits, from younger brain age and more positive mood to the avoidance of diseases like type 2 diabetes, better breathing potentially, or at least a slower progression of those lung diseases, less risk of heart disease, more aerobic capacity, more energy level, better sexual function, less pain overall. So that these potentials are all there. What we observe very reproducibly in the clinic is we see when people connect to a healthy enough lifestyle, body weight comes down, the waist circumference comes down, we see blood pressure come down, your cholesterol and lipids come down. In fact, we can tell if somebody's eating a healthier diet because if their cholesterol didn't budge, then they didn't make the significant enough changes. So it's almost a slam dunk that you're going to have cholesterol level and LDL level come down when you eat healthier. Hemoglobin A1C, that marker for type 2 diabetes, and other important markers that we measure in your health. As well, there's the potential of taking fewer medicines, and many of, like, for example, our mentors have stories to tell about how they were able to get off medications when they shifted to a healthier lifestyle, but just less utilization of our healthcare system. And doesn't that sound like a great thing? The healthcare system is a bizarre and very difficult world to navigate, and it's very expensive and it's dangerous. There's a lot of medical error that happens. So the less you have to worry about your health and go to procedures and appointments, the better, right? I'll mention that there is very strong hint that in the research that this healthy lifestyle we speak of boosts your immune function. And we have pretty good evidence that you might have a lower risk of COVID-19 complications if you're living a healthier lifestyle. We don't have time to go into that evidence, but it's pretty darn strong. What we're doing is we're planting a seed. We're hoping that what we're going to talk about today in the course of this health challenge is going to blossom into some insights, some knowledge, some habits, some skills that you're going to develop and that are going to grow for the rest of your life. So I'm hoping everybody has like a piece of paper or an index card that we're gonna build out a plan. We're gonna build out an action plan for the week. So our week 1 plan, and we're gonna end up today with a list of things we're gonna do. It might be 1 item long, it might be 7 items long. It's whatever you decide you're up for doing. Now I want to emphasize that, you know, we want to meet you where you are. We don't want to make things too hard for you, but we're going to also emphasize kind of the big changes, because it's the big changes that get the biggest results. And we're going to encourage you to make as big a change as possible. What we don't preach is a message of moderation. That's what the rest of the healthcare system does. Everybody says everything in moderation. Well, guess what? Everything in moderation doesn't reverse disease, doesn't get you living your very best. So how can you build your healthiest life? Well, step 1 is, so I liken it to a pyramid that builds on itself, with the foundation being your purpose in this world. What is your reason for being? Why do you exist on this planet? Oftentimes that helps connect people with a stronger sense, a desire for change. Social support is ever so important. So, you know, shoring up that social support as we go through this program. And I'll talk about these all in more detail. Addiction-free, I'm encouraging us to really take the month as an opportunity to get away from any addictive behaviors or substances. Natural sleep, and we'll delve into that one a little bit more deeply today. And I'll show a 5-minute video from Dr. Matthew Walker. The whole food plant-based diet, which we will spend a lot of time on in the course of this health challenge, and has such a transformative power. Movement, which is one of the most important things you can do. The best medicine for your brain is your physical movement. And oftentimes when people have ascended to this level, they've got their social support in order, they're free of addiction, they're sleeping well, they're eating well. You have so much energy that you want to move. You can't stop yourself from moving. So that's why I put movement afterwards. Obviously, you can tackle these lifestyle changes in whatever order you like, but this is just a suggestion. And once you've got all those things in order, you can quiet your monkey mind, your fidget brain by approaching life with mindfulness. You can maximize your positive psychology, which is really important for our happiness and our fulfillment in life. And then finally, at the very pinnacle of this healthy lifestyle journey, we share. And that's why so many of our mentors have come back to share, because it's really sort of the ultimate in this evolution toward being the best that you can be. So once you have so much knowledge, oftentimes we just can't help but want to share. So let's start with the purpose, the power of purpose. We don't have time to go deep into this topic, but there are interesting books written on the subject, like this one by Dr. Strecker, which goes through all the science on purpose. Purpose turns out to be a really important thing. When I say purpose, I'm talking about sort of your self-transcending values. When people are able to kind of connect with self-transcending values, they end up having more willpower. They have better outcomes in measurable ways with respect to their health, including things like faster gait speed and more happiness, and even less diabetes, stroke, and heart attack and dementia, if you can believe that. So if you have another index card, you could bust it out and write your purpose down, and even tape it up on the wall to remind yourself of what is your purpose in this world. And that could give you a little more motivation. This is a powerful exercise that most people go their entire life through without writing down their purpose. So I encourage you to do that. You could even put it in your plan, is I'm going to write out my purpose and tape it up so I see it every day. Let's jump to social support. So we are social creatures. We cannot achieve greatness in a vacuum. And what we're asking you to do with this health challenge is to achieve greatness. So whether it's your family members, your friends, those long-term relationships, people you're going through a common experience with, such as those in this program with you, these are opportunities to connect. And we've all connected with people throughout our lives, and some of whom have drifted away. So if you look back over your life, you're going to find a lot of opportunities to reconnect with people. So that's one of the things that I suggest consider doing is for your plan is write down, I'm going to contact 3 friends and see if somebody will be my contact during Health Challenge. If you've got a family member, someone in your household who's going to support you through this, then count yourself lucky. you've got some support at home, and that makes a very big difference in people's ability to lead a healthier life. Some people don't have that luxury, so this is particularly important. Checking in every day with your health buddy. Hey, do that the rest of your life. I mean, checking in with friends and loved ones is a very important component to your health. So ACLM calls it substance free, but I call it addiction free. I think there's other forms of addictions which are not healthy. Those substances, certainly. So the pills, the illicit substances, and hopefully those of you using heroin can use Health Challenge Delaware as your opportunity to quit. I don't mean to say that lightly, because this is a very, very serious problem, and there could even well be someone here who is using heroin. We don't, people who are using heroin cover it up very well. But substances of all types, marijuana, the ever-present marijuana now, alcohol, which is socially accepted. Again, we're not trying to mince words here. Ideally, for your health, I think the evidence is very clear in the science. You would not drink any alcohol. I think the only benefits of alcohol are the degree to which it brings us together in large social groups. So it's social cohesion element. So picture a group of Mediterraneans people sitting around a large table having some wine with dinner. And of course, tobacco, nasty, nasty stuff, but also those behaviors. So it can include social media, it can include gambling and pornography, and even food in a sense is an addiction, especially the unhealthy foods. They all, guess what? They all stimulate the same parts of the brain. All these crave-worthy behaviors stimulate the same reward centers of the brain and get overactivated when we do too much of it. And what we find actually in interesting research, this is called functional MRI scans. What we find is that people who have addictions of all types have a similar set of patterns of the way the brain malfunctions in response to a positive stimulus. The normal brain gets a nice red glow of positivity when stimulated with a positive stimulus, but those who are abusing cocaine or even obese, overweight, or alcohol, all have the same kind of pattern of the brain, of a diminished amount of pleasure lighting up in the brain. It takes more and more stimulus to elicit that positive response. So in a sense, this addiction is really at the root of the problem of everything that we do that's unhealthy, because we're to some degree addicted to the various pleasures around us. So getting away from especially those overloading bliss point pleasures, like biting into that bacon double cheeseburger or lighting up that cigarette or whatever it might be, drinking that alcohol. So think about, for your week one plan, addressing those addictions head on. And I'm just not going to do any betting for the month. I'm not going to do any alcohol. They call it Sober October. So Sober October, 0 alcohol. Let me just see how my life plays out when I go alcohol free. For a lot of people, it plays out a lot better. You can lose weight, for one thing. You sleep better, and on, other benefits as well. No late night scrolling or TV. So look at your own life with a very open mind and find out, where do I have my own addictions? We all have addictions. So where are mine, and which of those can I remove? So natural sleep. We're going to talk about natural sleep a bit. So natural sleep is the difference between feeling like a wreck and feeling like $1,000,000. And you guys all know that. When we get that natural sleep, it really helps us in so many ways, as we will talk about here in this 5-minute video.
My name is Matthew Walker. I am a professor of neuroscience and psychology at the University of California, Berkeley, and I am the author of the book, Why We Sleep. We certainly know that a lack of sleep will actually prevent your brain from being able to initially make new memories. So it's almost as though without sleep, the memory inbox of the brain shuts down and you can't commit new experiences to memory. So those new incoming informational emails are just bounced and you end up feeling as though you're amnesic. You can't essentially make and create those new memories. We also know that a lack of sleep will lead to an increased development of a toxic protein in the brain that is called beta amyloid, and that is associated with Alzheimer's disease, because it is during deep sleep at night when a sewage system within the brain actually kicks into high gear and it starts to wash away this toxic protein, beta amyloid. So if you're not getting enough sleep each and every night, more of that Alzheimer's related protein will build up. The more protein that builds up, the greater your risk of going on to develop dementia in later life. What are the effects of sleep deprivation on the body? Well, there are many different effects. Firstly, we know that sleep deprivation affects the reproductive system. We know that men who are sleeping just 5 to 6 hours a night have a level of testosterone which is that of someone 10 years their senior. So a lack of sleep will age you by almost a decade in terms of that aspect of virility and wellness. We also know that a lack of sleep impacts your immune system. So after just one night of 4 to 5 hours of sleep, there is a 70% reduction in critical anti-cancer fighting immune cells called natural killer cells. And that's the reason that we know that short sleep duration predicts your risk for developing numerous forms of cancer. And that list currently includes cancer of the bowel, cancer of the prostate, as well as cancer of the breast. In fact, the link between a lack of sleep and cancer is now so strong that recently the World Health Organization decided to classify any form of nighttime shift work as a probable carcinogen. So in other words, jobs that may induce cancer because of a disruption of your sleep-wake rhythms. We also know that a lack of sleep impacts your cardiovascular system, because it is during deep sleep at night that you receive this most wonderful form of effectively blood pressure medication. Your heart rate drops, your blood pressure goes down. If you're not getting sufficient sleep, you're not getting that reboot of the cardiovascular system. So your blood pressure rises. You have, if you're getting 6 hours of sleep or less, a 200% increased risk of having a fatal heart attack or a stroke in your lifetime. There is a global experiment that is performed on 1.6 billion people twice a year, and it's called daylight savings time. And we know that in the spring, when we lose 1 hour of sleep, we see a subsequent 24% increase in heart attacks the following day. Another question perhaps is, what is the recycle rate of a human being? How long can we actually last without sleep before we start to see declines in your brain function or even impairments within your body? And the answer seems to be about 16 hours of wakefulness. Once you get past 16 hours of being awake, that's when we start to see mental deterioration and physiological deterioration in the body. We know that after you've been awake for 19 or 20 hours, your mental capacity is so impaired that you would be as deficient as someone who is legally drunk behind the wheel of a car. So if you were to ask me what is the recycle rate of a human being, it does seem to be about 16 hours, and we need about 8 hours of sleep to repair the damage of wakefulness. Wakefulness essentially is low-level brain damage.
So a lot of fascinating points in this book, Why We Sleep. And just to give some highlights, everybody needs 7 to 8 hours. So some people say, oh, I don't need, I do well on 5 hours. Well, you might feel like you do well, but you're not doing well. We can measure all sorts of long-term problems you're going to have, including higher risk of Alzheimer's disease, higher infection rate, higher cancer rates, and many, many other problems. So that 7 hours of natural sleep is required to be our best, both short-term and long-term. And one thing about, he makes a big point in the book, is that we don't really have a sleeping pill that improves restfulness. We have lots of sleeping pills that knock you out, but not sleeping pills that actually give you that restorative sleep for the most part. So in general, if you find yourself taking a sleeping pill most nights, I would recommend find a more natural way to get the sleep that you need without the sleeping pills. So this sleep hygiene, we have maybe I'll forward our handout on sleep hygiene. This is a very busy slide with lots of tips, and you've probably heard a lot of them already, but this is really our answer for getting optimal sleep. You want to have that sleep ritual. You want to get to bed at a consistent time. Make sure you give yourself 8 hours a night. You want to avoid the substances which can disrupt sleep, like alcohol and caffeine. The blue light, the screens at night really activate you and wake you up. So getting away from that, getting away from the screens, get that TV out of your bedroom, please. And keep the room quiet and dark. There's a thing called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. If you're going to get medical treatment, that would be the medical treatment I recommend for your sleep. So your week 1 plan could well include a plan around getting better sleep. Okay. The diet. We're going to talk more about the diet in the subsequent weeks, but I wanted to give you a sense that we could get started now. We talk about the 5 food groups of the whole food plant-based diet. So to be clear, this is the food that we recommend to be our very best. One of the things we like to do is be very clear about what is the ideal. And in a sense, this is more or less the ideal. You could argue, well, we humans evolved to eat a certain amount of meat, and that might well be the case, but this was small amounts of small game, which were not factory fattened like is what is available in our Western civilization. So the 5 food groups are fruits, vegetables, whole intact grains, legumes like beans and lentils, and finally nuts and seeds. Unfortunately, what we eat in the West looks more like this. So this is really kind of regular food that people usually eat in the United States. And this is a large part of why we talk about food so much here. There's such a disconnect between what's the ideal and what we actually eat. Americans eat mostly processed foods, a fair bit of animal products, and only about 12% of what the average American eats or ate as of 12 years ago was this whole plant foods that we recommend. If you look at some of the research, like from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's Global Burden of Disease Survey, which goes deep into this available science and says, what is it that's causing early death? And the answer is, it's not tobacco, it's dietary risks first and foremost. And if you look at the top 7, high blood pressure, high body mass index, high LDL, most of those items are related to food. So food really is the leading cause of death worldwide. And so that's another reason why we really focus on that. So that pepperoni pizza we're eating is contributing to 5 out of the top 7 sources of early death. So let's talk about some recipes, some strategies we can employ to connect to a healthier diet. For one thing, I just like to mention, when you're thinking recipes, you don't have to spend a lot of time. I mean, Google is the best recipe book ever created. It's unbelievable, in my opinion. This is the world according to Dave, but go to Google and just type in ingredients, type in vegan curry, whatever, and you will find recipe after recipe that's very good. And actually, what I recommend is take the foods you already like to eat and just switch them over to be healthier. So if you take tacos and swap out that ground beef, you're getting rid of all that saturated fat, that high calorie dense food that has 0 fiber and very few nutrients and is pro-oxidant, and you're going to swap in lentils. You're going to get high fiber, you're going to get antioxidants, you're going to get weight loss, improved digestive function, the list goes on. So lentils are very, very healthy. Ground beef is very, very unhealthy. But otherwise, you're eating like the same food. How much suffering are you doing eating lentil tacos rather than beef tacos? How much suffering are you doing if you're having, instead of spaghetti with meatballs, have whole grain spaghetti with plant-based meatballs? Nowadays, we have the luxury of living in a world where these plant-based substitutes are all over the place. So you can have delicious, delicious recipes. Look at that conventional author versus look at that vegan author. Who is doing better in the weight department? Ultra satisfying chicken noodle soup. Let's switch that to ultra satisfying chickpea noodle soup. Okay, you're not suffering much. You're eating perfectly good soup. Just instead of little chunks of chicken, you're eating little chunks of chickpeas. Instead of eating a standard breakfast of, what do they call this, cereal flavored breakfast candy, which pretty much every processed breakfast cereal is just loaded with sugar and flour and devoid of fiber and nutrients. Make yourself a healthier oat-based cereal. Doesn't take that much time. It's much, much healthier for you. Switching away from dairy is a great strategy to achieve better health, to lower your cholesterol level, to reduce your risk of heart disease. And fortunately, we have scads of plant-based alternatives, like pick a milk ingredient of your choice. I happen to think that organic, unsweetened soy milk is the healthiest of the bunch, according to the research I've seen. Instead of that slab of beef, have one of these amazingly tasty veggie burgers. These are very, very tasty stuff. The downside is, yes, they're processed. Yes, they're higher in sodium, but you're getting fiber. You're getting much less fat. Overall, we think the plant-based option is much, much healthier. So another strategy for food is shoot for 10 servings a day of fruits and vegetables. We don't eat nearly enough. Our sense of fruit and vegetable is like one at lunch and one at dinner. That's 2 a day. That's not enough. I mean, the research, there seems to be a bit of a threshold effect. Once you get up to 10 a day, we see the benefits in mental health and other things. So as instead of sweeteners or even artificial sweeteners, it's best to use fruit. Fruit is a great sweetener. Bananas on your cereal, sweeten it up very nicely without all the harm. Salads, make sure you get your salad every day. Salad and those leafy vegetables are particularly important for health. That's me consuming one of my half-gallon salads where I throw everything but the kitchen sink into a 64-ounce Gladware container. Red onions, balsamic vinegar is my dressing. It is a very healthy substance. We'll get more into that later, but just straight up balsamic vinegar, not the oil. Stop eating after 7. One of the most important strategies for maintaining your weight. The food that you eat later in the day is more fattening than if you eat the same food earlier in the day, significantly more fattening. So if you can avoid that late night snack, you're going to be a lot slimmer in the long run. So for your week 1 plan, I do encourage you to put something with regard to nutrition in here if there's an opportunity for you to improve your nutrition. One thing you could put is I'm going to try to eat 1 plant-based meal a day. You could put, I'm going to go dairy-free. And again, this is a great way to lower that cholesterol. And you're going to find you don't really need it. You don't need to add cheese to everything like you used to think you had to. Remove processed junk from the kitchen is another strategy. Eat 1 big salad a day, like I mentioned. You could go whole hog, as we say, and eat 100% plant-based. We would certainly support that, but that's going to be a little harder. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people, it works great. Beware if you make the big changes all of a sudden that your microbiota might not be ready for it, and you might get a little gassy or a lot gassy. So sometimes it behooves you to go a little bit more stepwise, a little more gradual toward that whole food plant-based diet. You can, so as we build our week 1 plan, integrating the food plan in with the sleep plan, by all means. So movement, ever so important for functioning our very best. You can do anything, cycling. I really like walking and trying to track your pedometer steps, trying to get up over whatever it is that's your target, 5,000, 7,000, 10,000 a day. Steps are very important. It's a reflection that you're up, you're moving, you're outside often in nature. Ideally, you're out with friends, you're checking multiple boxes all at once. There's all sorts of stuff online, so there's no excuse even on bad weather days. Walk at home. This has been a successful strategy for some of my patients over the years. Tennis, I got to give a special shout out to tennis. It's been my father's youth serum for the past 50 years. And it's year round, it's lifelong, it's social. When you're playing singles, you're getting a decent cardiovascular workout. You're working those thigh muscles, which are oh so important. And then the other thing is don't sit all the time, irrespective of how much exercise you're getting. Try not to sit, try to stand, try to move around. Yoga is a win-win from a perspective of core muscles, of mindfulness techniques built into it. Yoga is a wonderful habit to get into. So week 1 plan, I certainly encourage you to start moving more. Challenge yourself to go up in the counts of steps. Challenge yourself to do a little bit of resistance training, like just do as many push-ups as you can do once a day. Challenge yourself to do an exercise video. Mindfulness, we don't have a lot of time for this, but journaling is a great mindfulness hack. And writing down 3 good things that happened today has been found to boost mood. You could keep a health journal that lets you chronicle all the changes you're making. Good old meditation, and there's plenty of apps for it. There's Headspace and Calm and many others. I'll just mention the angelwing.com, which is being run by the great Dr. Chetna Kripalu across town here in Wilmington. It's a free program that she's running all year, so you can go to the angelwing.com. So again, in your week 1 plan, you could journal, you could attend programs at the Angel Wing, you could meditate. And then finally, sharing. This is when we've ascended to the pinnacle, and this is where our mentors are going to come in. They are sharing, and many, many thanks to our incredibly talented mentors. It's been a great pleasure to get to know them better over the years. And these guys have a collective amount of hundreds of hours of wisdom about how to lead your healthiest life. So ultimately, we're going to assemble this week 1 plan. Again, it could have 1 item, it could have 7 items. You might lay it out like this so you can track right there on the card which days you were successful. So starting with Wednesday, that's tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday through Tuesday, and check the box when you're able to be successful. We are going to ask you next week, how did it go, and which of your action plans did you actually succeed at? If you were to ask me, you say, Dave, I don't want to come up with my own, just tell me what to do. If you were to ask me, I would say, all right, well, let's prioritize these 3 things. Let's stop all addictions. Let's do the sober October thing. Let's nail down sleep really good. Let's do a daily sleep ritual, including as many of those healthy sleep hygiene behaviors as we mentioned as possible, including giving yourself an 8-hour sleep opportunity and a consistent bedtime. And then add on, thirdly, a whole food plant-based meal once a day. So I would ask you, and Alex, maybe you could put this link in the chat. I would ask you to start filling out this survey. It's just like a 6-question survey, but it's to measure where you are right now as far as your health with respect to some of these categories that we mentioned. So if you could go to tinyurl.com/HEALDE assessment, or ASS if you prefer. We are going to break into our breakout groups in a minute, but first I would love if you guys could fill out that survey. And while we're filling out that survey, would love to hear your thoughts, questions, ideas.
Could
So
you
if
put
anyone,
back the URL on the survey, please?
yeah,
Thank you.
so jump onto that survey. Yeah, thoughts, questions, ideas. I threw a lot of information at you. And after you do the survey, you're going to get a link to our handout that Ruben and Michelle were kind enough to assemble for us and update for 2021.
David, can I assume ASS is just for assessment?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can assume that. If you assume that, then that makes an ass out of you and me. Just kidding.